We're going to talk Arizona basketball and football strength and weaknesses and everything that does need to happen for Arizona to have a good season on both fronts.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. This show is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app today. Check it out. All right. We're going to talk Arizona football. We are going to talk Arizona basketball. We are going to talk a little bit about everything and what the strengths of the team are and exactly where Arizona needs to be when it comes to all of this. But first, let's talk about the strengths of the Arizona football team. Now, the big thing is that we obviously know is that this team has a very, very talented offense. The skill position players are incredibly good, and that's pretty much just the way it is. The skill position guys are very, very good, and I think that that's something that you need to really look at. Noah Fifita, for example. Noah Fifita is I believe Noah Fifita is the best quarterback in the conference. And honestly, there's nobody else that I would take. Now, listen, I know the Kansas guy's good. I know Shedeur Sanders is good. I know, obviously, that Avery Johnson, a lot of people love him. But at the end of the day, this is who I am taking. I will take Noah Fifita every single day of the week because when the chips are down, I believe that Arizona is I believe that he is the dude that you want with the football driving down the field. So I'll take Noah Fifita. That is a massive strength of this team, and especially at the quarterback position. There's no more important position, obviously, in all of football, obviously all of sports, than the quarterback spot. Noah Fifita is that dude, and that is a big one. Now, the next one is that wide receiver. I think wide receiver is good across the board, to be honest with you. Not only do I think that Arizona is really, really good when it comes to what exactly what you need with T-Mac. Everybody knows how good T-Mac is. We don't need to really break that one down. We spend a lot of time talking about T-Mac, but I think the other wide receivers are going to be just as good as well. I think that these are players that, like a Malachi Riley. I think that he's going to be able to step right in and be that guy again. We will find out if he's up to it, but I don't see any reason why he can't be up to it. He's a talented player, and he's somebody that I think can just kind of get open, and that's where I think that's something that where Arizona's interested in. Now, I think with the other thing too is that Malachi Riley's going to be able to be that guy. I'm totally cool with the wide receivers. I'm totally cool with the skill position guys entirely. Honestly, I think the skill position units rack up with the most teams in the country, honestly. I'll put Noah Fifita against pretty much anybody. I'll put T-Mac against anybody. And, I know that it's a little unproven, but I'll take that running back room pretty much against anybody as well. That's, like I said, that's a very, very enticing unit. And so there is certainly that. Now, the offensive line, listen, I mean, you got four stalwarts. You got four players that are very, very good. And I don't think that there's any questions really about him. And again, I get that Josh Baker had a few up and down moments, but overall, Josh Baker's really good. It's that other tackle position. But how many teams do you know going into the season where you're going to have four guys that are really, really good? I mean, that's a good position. Overall, the offense is going to – I expect the offense to be very, very good. Honestly, I think the offense is going to be fantastic, and there's really no reason that it shouldn't be fantastic. We will obviously see how that all plays out, but there's a lot to like about this team, And not only is there a lot to like about this team, there is a lot to like about just the overall composition of it. But those are strengths. Again, you've got very few real question marks on offense. The question marks probably reside a little bit around, the coaching, how that's all going to fit in. But as far as the talent, I think that you got a really good situation going. So those are pretty much the strengths. The overall talent on the offense is very, very good. And like I said, I'll put it up against pretty much any Big 12 team going. And then on the defensive side, you have obviously some real strengths as well. You've got Jacob Manu, who I expect to be all conference. Not only do I expect him to be all conference, I expect him to be first team all conference, and I expect him to be within all American honors. He's the dude. He's kind of that just a cataclysmic player that is able to make plays happen, is able to get upfield, and is able to make a lot of different stuff. And again, a natural football player that people gravitate towards. You want dudes like Jacob Manu on your team. He's that guy, as they say, or as the kids like to say, he is him. And Jacob Manu is that. Jacob Manu is him, as the kids would say. And then Takario Davis, you don't really have a lot of DBs like him throughout college football, and you don't have a lot of them here that come to the U of A. I expect him to be very, very good. And not only do I expect him to be very, very good, I expect him to be the dude who is kind of the next level type player in that he is he's the guy who when push comes to shove, he is going to be he's going to be a number one player. I expect him to be off in the NFL in a year, but Arizona in the meantime will take him. That is clearly a big strength. And honestly, I think the starting line is a strength of the team. Again, the questions kind of come in, as far as depth, especially on the edges. But overall, I do think that both of these, that this is a starting unit. This is starting that is more than good enough. And not only is it more than good enough, I think it is more than honestly. I think it's pretty much a spot where that you're going to be in a pretty good shape. So that's kind of where it is. That's kind of where it is with that. You do need to understand, though, too, that there's going to be some things that have to be figured out. But another position that is a clear strength for Arizona is safety. And I think with safety, that is a big part of all of this. Arizona's loaded at safety. And not only is it loaded at safety, it is as about as good a safety unit as I can remember at the U of A, certainly in a long time. I mean, I don't know if it's Brandon Sanders and Tony Bowie good, but it's also very, very good with and there's a lot to like about it, and it's deep. I mean, you bring in an Owen Goss as well, another guy that you just you're like, all right, that's a next level type player. And you already got three other guys in Genesis Smith, Dalton Johnson, and Gunnar Maldonado, who is going to be very, very good as well. So the safeties are loaded. Again, the DBs outside of that one corner are absolutely loaded. And, I don't know what really else to say other than that. There's a lot of strengths there. I also think Dwayne Aquina is a real strength here too, because Dwayne Aquina, I have a lot of faith in him at that DC spot, and I think he's just going to be able to make things work. I think he's going to be able to figure out what Arizona needs, and I think that's kind of an underrated aspect in all of this is having a DC that understands with what needs to be. What just needs to be done. And I think that's going to be something that he is going to be very, very good at with this University of Arizona football team. And honestly, I think going forward, you're going to see a little bit more of an aggressive style defense, which is something that I think we all want to see as well. A little bit more aggressive because he doesn't want to sit back and wait. And that is something that he's made very, very clear. And I think that's kind of the reason the BDN moved on is that he doesn't want to sit. He doesn't want to sit back and, he wants to be able to get upfield. That's kind of always been his thing. And he is, I think he's going to be very, very good with what this roster has, and I think he is going to be very good. Now, you might say to yourself, where can I watch some of these games? Because I don't really know. I mean, you're going into Big 12 land, and it's going to be a little difficult. Well, Gametime says do not worry about it. Gametime has you. Gametime, download the Gametime app today. Again, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your purchase. Again, terms apply, all kinds of good stuff at Gametime. Again, you can get in for tickets, you can get in for concerts, you can get in for sporting events. And not only that, you can also probably find some other things that you might not think that you were going to have an opportunity to be able to do. So download the Gametime app. That's the first thing you got to do. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Check it out. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. Now, let's talk a little bit about some of the wild cards here, because there are a few wild cards. And I think, Raymond Polito, I think is a huge wild card because he's a dude who is he's a guy who is, just like I said, he's very talented. He was committed to Alabama. Alabama just doesn't take, anybody. He's obviously good, and he is he's a very talented football player. But if he can stay healthy, then I think that you don't really have any concerns about your offensive line, but we just got to see it be able to stay healthy. If he's healthy, then you're good to go. He is a massive wild card in all of this. And we will find out where he's at, because he is like I said, he's a guy that, that, again, he's big, he's talented, he's got long arms. He was made to play football. We'll find out, though, if he's up to that challenge, because physically, if he is, then Arizona is going to be a real problem. And not only is Arizona going to be a real problem, Arizona's going to be in a spot where you can look at them and say, well, man, there's a path to a college football playoff there. That's kind of where you're at when it comes to that. So we will see. He is a big wild card in all of this. And I think another wild card is Justin Flo. Now, I don't think Justin Flo is going to play a ton per se, but Justin Flo obviously has talent. The coaching staff wants to see him be able to get upfield, to be able to get after the quarterback. And if he can get after the quarterback and you can just kind of limit his roles to that, then I think Arizona is going to be in a good spot. I think it just remains to be seen. Will he be able to do that? Will Arizona be able to get him in? Will Arizona be able to get him in that spot? We'll find that one out. But I don't really know one way or the other where if that's going to be the case or not, because again, this is going to be your fourth coaching staff that he's had. In the previous three, had a difficult time playing him. Again, you can watch him and that he's got a ton of talent, but there's obviously the mental part to the game as well. So we will see that one. Now, so that's kind of where it's at with that. Again, when I come to projection, I think this team's going to win 10 games. I think they're going to be really good. And I think the coaching staff is solid. We'll certainly find out, but the coaching staff, I think, is solid. And there's certainly solid talent there. We will see how this all plays out. Now, moving over to a little bit of Arizona basketball. What are the strengths of the team? The first one is going to be the perimeter. The strengths of this team in a big way on the perimeter. I absolutely love what Arizona is going to be able to incorporate in that starting perimeter, where you've got KJ Lewis, you got Jaden Bradley, and you got Caleb Love. As a matter of fact, I don't know that there's many perimeters in the country that I would take over that. I mean, it's probably a very, very select few, and it's because they can do a variety of different things. Caleb Love obviously can get to the hoop. Caleb Love can score, but I think with Caleb Love, you also know that he the other thing too with Caleb Love is that you just want him to become more consistent, but he's an All-American type player. There's not a lot of teams that are returning All-American type players. He's an All-American type player. Arizona is obviously much, much better off having him than not having him. And I think Jaden Bradley is going to take a big step. I really do. I think Jaden Bradley is going to make a lot of people understand that, probably should have played a little bit more last year. And not only should he probably have played a little bit more last year, he probably should have been that starter at some point. Big kudos to Brad Allis for saying that, because he was certainly right. And I think he's going to be an all-conference type dude. And I think KJ Lewis is going to be an all-conference type guy. I think you got 3 all-conference type guys. Now you might just say, Mike, you're just being pie in the sky. No, I think they are. I don't think everybody agrees that Caleb Love has that potential, but I don't see why KJ Lewis can't as well, and why Jaden Bradley can't. I think those guys all kind of fit into that box, and we will find out. But I absolutely love the perimeter for the U of A. I also think a big strength of that team is going to be its perimeter defense. I think the perimeter defense for Arizona, projects out very, very nicely. And if that's able to work, out, then Arizona is going to be in really, really good shape. Because what does Arizona not really had? They haven't had really, really good defensive point guard play. Kirk Harisa, Kylan Boswell could have been that, but Kylan Boswell was out of shape. He had other issues going on. We don't need to regurgitate all of that. But I think the perimeter defense for Arizona is going to be quite good. I am very excited about that. So we're going to see, we'll see exactly how that one plays out. But also, I think you got solid depth. I mean, right now, that you've got 8 dudes that are going to be able to play. I think in the years past, you've had some kind of guys where you're like, don't really want you out there, but you got to kind of be out there. Arizona doesn't have to really deal with that. There isn't that concern this year because, listen, Carter Bryant, 5-star kid, he's going to play that 16 to 20 minute per game role. You've also got Tobe Awaka, and you've also got Anthony Del Orso. Those guys are all proven in some way, shape, or form. Now, again, I get Carter Bryant's not proven per se, but he's a 5-star kid, and you watch him for 5 seconds, and you can see how talented he is. Obviously, very, very good. And I think another thing that you got to keep in mind, too, is that where exactly is Arizona then if somebody gets into foul trouble? You're pretty well covered at all those spots except point guard. Now, again, I get it, but Caleb Love's going to probably be the backup point guard this year. We'll see if that changes at all, but I expect Caleb Love to be the backup point guard. But other than that, you got a front court where you got Tobe Awaka, who's got you covered. Then you got Anthony Del Orso. And I think that you're probably going to be bringing in another person. Maybe you get Will Riley. And if you get Will Riley, it's really game on. But the only position where I'm kind of like, is the backup point guard spot. But I also expect Jaden Bradley to play 30-plus minutes per game. Hopefully it's the Jason Gardner thing where he's able to do it and he doesn't really get hurt. If that was the case, then that would be very, very nice. Now, talking about some wild cards here. Big wild card is Henry Vasar. Listen, I'll believe it in Henry when I see it. Again, I could be totally wrong on that. I would love to be wrong on that. I just haven't seen it. But the coaching staff likes Henry Vasar. They want him back. And the thing that Henry has shown is that Henry can block shots, and they believe that Henry can shoot some threes. So we'll find out if that's really the case. If Henry can shoot some threes, then he's the ultimate wild card, and you would love to see that. And honestly, I think that would be a really, really good thing. I don't see Emmanuel Stephen playing this year. We've talked about it a ton. I think he's going to be a monster, but I don't really see that one really being the case. Maybe it does turn out to be true, but I don't really see that one. Then another wild card too. You could look at where is Trey Townsend in the grand scheme of things when it comes to his passing, playmaking, and facilitating ability? I think he's going to average about 4 or 5. I think he's going to average 4 to 5 assists per game. I think he's going to be right in the thick of things. And not only in the thick of things, I think he's going to be a guy that you're like, all right, Trey Townsend, he's facilitating, he's getting guys open, he's getting them their shots. I think you're going to see something like that. So that might not even be a wild card. I think the coaching staff is absolutely going with that. Now we're going to talk some projections and what we expect coming up next. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now let's talk about projections. And I think with projections, this is going to be it's going to be very fascinating for Arizona. A big part of these projection for me is I think that they're going. I think this is going to be Tommy Lloyd's best team. I think top to bottom, it's going to be his. I think it's going to probably be his toughest. But I also don't think there's necessarily going to be the weak links that there were before. Kylan Boswell was obviously a massive weak link last year. There were times, too, where there were other players out there where you just question where they're at. I think with this team, you know that you've got guys that basketball means a lot to them, that getting to that next level means a lot to them. And that's kind of where I think that Arizona is that they're going to fit in very well when it comes to that. That's where, like I said, I'm kind of at, though, with this Arizona basketball squad, is that these dudes are serious. These dudes care about basketball. So we will see. But I think this team's going to be – I don't think they're going to win the conference. I think Kansas is clearly the best team in the conference. And I think they're clearly the best team in the country. When you look at Hunter Dickinson, KJ Adams, what you're able to bring in with Storr, Zeke Mayo, you got DeJuan Harris. I mean, I can keep going. You got the 5-star big. You got other dudes. This is a loaded team. You lost Marco Jackson, but I don't really think he's that good to begin with. So, but I do think that Arizona can easily compete for that second spot in that conference, and I think that they can compete for a top 2 or 3 seed. Tommy Lloyd's been here 3 years, and he's had nothing less than a 2 seed. So, that might not be the case this year because you might drop a few more games, but overall, I think that you're probably going to win a lot of games, and I think you're well positioned. That's the other thing. I think you're far more well positioned with a Jaden Bradley, with a KJ Lewis, with a Caleb Love to be able to make plays and to be able to have kind of that brand of physicality that you want as you go into the Big 12. But again, and I think they can compete for a national title. I think this is a top 10 team. Now, again, maybe there are some questions for sure, but as far as projecting out, I think this is a top 10 team in the country. Just like with football, I think it's a top 15 team, and I think Vegas is missing the odds or missing the boat a little bit with football. I think with basketball, they generally have a better idea. That's kind of where I'm at with those. But overall, though, there's a lot of strengths. We talked yesterday about the weaknesses of the team or some of the concerns. There's a lot of strengths. And, even some of the concerns, they could hit in a big way. I mean, you look at Mount Crevis. Mount Crevis, how is he going to adjust, all of that? But I think Crevis, you watch him and very, very quickly that he's going to be a player that he's got a lot of skills. He's got more skills than Umar Ballo, leader of men. And so while he is a concern, while he is a question mark, I think being able to get him into that next realm, I don't think is going to be something that's going to be entirely impossible to ask. As a matter of fact, I expect him to be able to do that. So, like I said, Mount Crevis, you look at some of the other players on this roster as well. I expect a very, very good thing for Arizona, and I think that we're going to. I think it's going to be a very good year. Again, Arizona's going into the Big 12, but we will find out exactly how Arizona is going to be. But I think football and basketball are going to be just fine. Now, coming back, tomorrow we're going to talk a little bit more recruiting. Talk about kind of filling out the rosters a little bit. And again, but today wanted to talk a little bit about the strengths. We talked about the weaknesses the previous day and what Arizona can do. But again, there's a lot to like about this Arizona basketball and Arizona football team, and we will continue to break all that down. Obviously, when things break, we will be talking about it here as well. Again, I expect Will Riley here in the next 7 to 10 days to probably announce his decision, and we'll be right there with you breaking that one down as well. But as always, very, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. Bear down, back the A, and we will see you tomorrow.